Factory drivability training. The Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood show from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood show. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, Hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. We had some calls coming in while the music was playing, so let's get right to those because they're long distance, and we don't want people to have to pay long distance fees.
Yeah, exactly.
When was the last time that was a discussion in your household?
15 years, maybe?
That long?
I think so.
I don't know that my wife and I have had a conversation about our long distance bill for 15
But it's a regular at the business. I'm waiting until the day where they just say, no, there's no charges. It's just, have they done that yet for you? Has anybody approached you?
We've got still quite a bit of toll-free calls that come in and different things. Imagine that. Toll-free is
Watts
even part
line.
of this. Don't have a Watts
Yeah,
line. We actually got into this discussion on the show one day.
They're calling from a cell phone that has free long distance, but you've got to pay the bill. It's like an extra bonus for them, isn't it?
Oh, is that how it works?
If they use our toll-free number.
If they're using a cell phone.
Yeah.
Like 866-594-4150?
Yeah.
Huh? All right.
What was that number again?
866-594-4150.
And what happens when you call that number?
We go to you on the phone like Brian in Colorado. Brian, go ahead.
Good morning, guys. How y'all doing this morning?
Good, Brian.
Great.
Great. I've got a 2016 Jeep Wrangler Sahara, and the front left caliper started grabbing last year and wasn't releasing, getting hot and smoking. It finally fried the caliper, so I had a mechanic replace the whole left side, new flex line, everything, and it's done it again since then in less than 10 months. And I've even turned off the brake assist, hill brake assist, thinking that might be it. And then I just had to replace everything again, and it's still doing it again. Can y'all lead me in the right direction on this one?
We can try. So
Interesting.
when you've replaced, for listeners, so if you've got a vehicle and a caliper appears to be sticking, you may replace it, and it may have immediate failure again, and you're wondering what happened. Well, a lot of times it's because of the hose. Maybe the caliper failed, but it heated up and damaged the hose, or maybe the hose was already previously damaged or just old and it's collapsed. But since Brian has replaced the whole thing, the caliper, the hose, the flex line, all of it, it should be clear all the way back to the master cylinder. But this vehicle has ABS, doesn't it?
Yes.
We have seen some of the vehicles with ABS get a stuck valve in them, and they don't allow fluid to pass back to the master cylinder. So how we diagnose that in our own shop, we drive the vehicle or just pump up the brakes and hold them a little bit until we can get the one wheel that's sticking to stick again. We might have to drive it a little bit, warm it up, who knows, because a lot of times engine heat will cause this under the hood. Brake booster, master cylinder, all that gets warm, and then it can start sticking. Once you get it to start sticking, go right to the master cylinder and release the pressure on the front set of hoses. Now, some of them are the back line of the master cylinder, some is the front line, but if you crack both of them open for just a second and then close them, if it releases the pressure, your problem's in the master cylinder. If it does not release the pressure, go down to the line that's coming up, that flex line, where it comes up and connects to your brake, analog brake.
And which
assembly.
is four-wheel ABS, since they're going to be individual
4 lines.
sections for each wheel.
Right. You just crack that loose. And if you crack that loose and it frees up the wheel, the problem is in your ABS hydraulic control unit, not the master cylinder. But if you crack it loose at the master cylinder, it's in the master cylinder end. But I'm guessing because it's only one wheel, it's probably located in the hydraulic control unit for the ABS. Otherwise, it would be both front wheels that are stuck because you only have 2 lines coming out of the master cylinder.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So I should try that first before I buy the little brake block with the ABS and the solenoid and all that stuff. I have another question. If I do have to replace that do I really have to take it to a dealership and have it flashed and all that so it'll recognize and all that?
On the 2016, I'm not positive if you do or not. A lot of times what we do is we remove the electronic module off of the hydraulic control unit, because if it's sticking, it's not in the module, it's going to be in the control, in the hydraulic part of it. And if you watch YouTube videos, you will see how that is done. It usually has 4 bolts or screws. You just simply take it off, there's no fluid leak, and then you replace the bottom part, the metal part. It's aluminum, and you bleed the brakes.
Which will give you you will get a fluid leak there.
You get a big one there. And then you just bolt the part back on. Therefore, you've not changed any of the electronics in the system, so the car doesn't even know it's been switched out. It's just been
We sell a lot of those units as a recycled original equipment part removed from a vehicle that's been rolled over or hit in the back end or whatever it might happen to be, and save people a lot of money on that part because it's quite expensive from the dealer, and some of those are getting to be harder to even get right now in this world of supply chain shortages. But there is definitely availability on our, like, go to our partner Cardash Part, you could find one and use the hydraulic portion of it if that's what you end up finding your problem is. Now, the other thing that Russ mentioned, I think he's hit it on the head. He usually does. But if that Jeeps sometimes are known, and this would be doing it all the time though, they get in a few accidents and the front axles bend easy. And, you know, we've seen a few of them where they get trauma on the front axle housing, and it will cause problems on alignment, cause problem on brakes. So if that thing's ever had an event in its life, you might want to just check to make sure that everything's true and aligned. But I think it's more than likely that hydraulic problem on one wheel.
Does that help you out there, Brian?
Right. Yeah, I'm still here. And, hey, I just wanted to mention, too, like when it locks up, if you're just in a parking lot and just meandering and not trying to, go down the highway or whatever, and I wait a few seconds, like 8 to 10 seconds, maybe 30 seconds, it slowly starts releasing.
Yeah, that's
if
it was a traumatic trauma issue, it wouldn't do that. This is a hydraulic issue.
Brian, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Have you noticed, you're talking about going to the YouTube videos, how it seems, for me at least, it's a more frequent situation where it'll say how to release your brakes on a 2016 Jeep. And when you go there, the guy goes, yeah, I've had this problem, so I got to figure out how to fix that.
Yes.
Thanks for watching the video. I think it's this. I think I am going to have to figure this out. All right, good luck.
I think they're fishing for comments.
I think so, or
For
something.
somebody to say, oh, no, you dummy, this is what you're supposed to do.
I looked up a review of an unboxing and a review, and it was a review of the unboxing. They unboxed the coffee maker, and then they said, I like the packaging. Okay, well, I'll redo this one after I've tried it. Well, it's not a review.
No. And hey, speaking of YouTube, if you have been going to Facebook to watch our show after we do it to see what was going on and see our made-for-radio faces, at least mine, we're no longer broadcasting on Facebook because just in Facebook style, they have banned the platform that we have for at least a while. Not just us, but everybody that uses this, which is several thousand people. So now just look for the link on Facebook and watch us on YouTube.
We'll do unboxing reviews. We're
gonna review people that are unboxing.
That's right.
I think
it's an unboxing review. Oh, here's an unboxing
does
video.
anybody do that?
I kind of liked it.
As a rule?
That's my review. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. From the Autotempest.com studios, all the cars, one search, Autotempest.com/hoodie. This is the Under the Hood Show. What's caught your attention in the automotive world?
Well, when you get right down to it, there was a caller that reached out to me, and this kind of hit home for me. He's from Colorado, and he's got a 2002 ML320 Mercedes. Doesn't sound, nowadays, 2002 ML320 is a nice vehicle, but it doesn't sound as exciting as it was in 2004. as far as thinking it's a
Sure.
exclusive vehicle.
A lot of cars, when they first come out, they're amazing, and
Yep.
then 2 decades later, you look at them and go, "Why did I love that car?"
Yeah, my wife and I
so
owned
much?"
3 of those vehicles. One was Sparky, the one that Russ and I would have liked to have buried in a field somewhere.
And I remember when we worked on it, thinking how cool it would be.
And that was actually an ML350, but the
you know,
same thing.
Yeah, it was cool. It was the thing. But as technology keeps progressing, we go, boy, how did we ever love that?
So he called me and he was, hey, can you help me? And well, Bob, I haven't talked to you for a while. And so after 10 minutes of catching up and talking about his crazy childhood and watching our business grow on the farm and how things had changed, and he watches us from afar on our Facebook channels for the company and privately, and I think he wanted to date my sister at one time. But we had all kinds of conversation. He went on to say that he's having a really hard time. He's got this 2002 ML320, and he cannot get it registered in Colorado because he can't pass the emissions test. And he goes,
More and more states are doing this.
and he's like, well, can you get me a catalytic converter? And I'm like, he's got a vehicle that's been burning a little bit of oil. It's got 400,000 miles or something on it, 380 or 390,000 miles on it. And he needs to keep using this vehicle. He knows what he's got. He's got to keep it affordable, and he needs to keep using it. And so he was asking for what help I could offer him. And so we talked through the issue, and I think even worse yet, it's a California emissions version of that vehicle. So available on OE to try to find a catalytic converter, if he can get one, thousands of dollars to get what he needs. The Federal Clean Air Act currently has auto recyclers in a complete box. We can't sell that catalytic converter, which is, I think, one of the stupidest things in the world right now. I'm a little biased on that, but the vehicles test themselves. They've got sensors on both sides of the catalytic converters measuring efficiency of the converter. It'll turn a light on if it doesn't work.
If it's got a bad one on it and you put a bad one on it, it's like saying double your money back. If
you still got a bad one, you just got to replace it with another one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a violation of federal law if we sell an untested converter, but the testing process outside defined in the law is not the testing process it should be, that you could document that you tested it on the vehicle is good.
Mm-hmm.
There was definitely some lobby put into that at some point from some manufacturers because it just doesn't make any sense. Our trade association, the Automotive Recyclers Association, is trying to change this. I've got a friend of mine, and I've mentioned this to a few other people, that we're working on a pilot with the National Highway Traffic Safety folks, kind of coming through some different angles to look at making available tested catalytic converters for replacement when they've been stolen for theft, which is an issue. As you know, Chris, you've got a friend that has had his stolen twice.
Mm-hmm. Immediately after replacing it, they hit the neighborhood again.
After they spent how many thousands of dollars on this Toyota that he's got?
Mm-hmm.
So this friend of mine has developed a testing company that they've figured out how to meet the muster of what the federal government requirements are to recertify a removed catalytic converter. So I was telling him that I might be able to help him, but I've got to first find a unit that matches that somebody would sell me for this process. And it's just such a box you're in, you know, to be able to do this. No stock available in his company that does this. And it's still going to be expensive, but it would be at least available to get him going.
Right.
But I just think that is something that really hit my radar, is that when you think of where we live, here we're in the upper Midwest in South Dakota, never really have thought about Colorado. It's not that far away. We drive to Colorado, being a state right now, and I think Minnesota's got stuff coming. And
Minnesota, California, Colorado, Washington, Michigan, New York, New Jersey. I mean, it just, there's all. I think there's 21 states that they will not register. So this guy couldn't pass emissions, but the ones that are not just passing emissions, that are non-emissions testing states, they will not let you register a car if it's not equipped with the factory emissions. So it's simple. They don't need to go through the whole sniffer test. You just pull into the station, they pop the hood, open it, and look at it and go, hey, your EGR valve's gone on your diesel. You know, your EGR system's gone. It's been deleted. No stamp for you. You can't get your truck registered. Oh, look, there's a Cummins diesel in there where it used to have a 350 in it, or a 6.5 diesel, or a Power Stroke. It's not original. You don't pass. So they are having to do things like register their vehicle in another state, and hopefully they don't get, tagged for driving. You're supposed to get your vehicle registered in your state within so many days once you move there. So, if you live two places, yeah, you can do it. But, all sorts of things. But people are not getting cars registered.
Right, and we are, as a company, I look at ourselves, we're completely environmentally conscious. We recycle so much stuff, and it's a big deal to us. I just gave a tour to a whole bunch of business leaders of the area to our business, and they, just without fail, numerous people commented, I'd never realized how big sustainability is part of your model for what we do as a business.
It's huge.
Now, we're a professional automotive recycler. This doesn't always meet the case when you go to your local junkyard if you've got one that isn't as organized, but they're still reusing product, which is a big deal. So it's hard for me to understand why we can't take this part and reuse it. But we're also seeing things, and this all hit my radar this week, that eBay, which we sell a lot on, is one of the companies we work with that helps us slot our inventory onto eBay. They're sending out warnings to their sellers. Now, this doesn't affect us because we don't sell the products that they're talking about, but they're taking their products and they're telling their sellers, hey, if you're listing these kind of products, you may get one warning, and then after that, you're kicked out of the kingdom. You can't,
even if they're completely emissions legal
You can't
products.
sell on eBay, and this is in regards to people that are selling EGR block-off plates, tuners that would potentially change beyond the factory parameters of the programming. They had a long list of things. So yeah, that's hit my radar this week. Is I think that the recycling and the environment is something that I take to heart, but we go too far. Mm-hmm. That's just my own opinion.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Oklahoma and talk to Paul. You're on the Under the Hood Show, Paul. What can we do for you?
I had a car stolen, and they 3 months later, the police department has notified me that they recovered it, and it's under investigation and all that. But my wife got on the internet and watched the news, and they had a helicopter, camera shot of the arrest, and so I called the towing yard, and they told me, yeah, you can come get it. There's no hold on it or anything. And so I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way to do that. I called a salvage yard. I called a temp company and asked them if they had any mechanics or body guys. Well, they all work, so they don't need to go call a temp service. So I went from there, and I called the salvage yard, and they told me they would be glad to go inspect it and give me an opinion because the towing company would not. And so I'm trying to figure out what, I'm 800 miles from my car, and I'm just trying to figure out where.
I've got an idea. Now, we deal in salvage all the time, and got a lot of good friends that are in towing companies. Towing companies have found themselves in some really tough spots, liability-wise, on what they can allow and what they can't allow. Sometimes they're caught between, like you said, there's no hold on it for law enforcement, but sometimes they may be bound by what an insurance company wants to do. They may be bound, by their bills that they want to get paid, and they are very much often having people that don't want to pay them. So they've put a lot of rules in place that you have to do this, you have to do this, this is how you're going to get your car. We have your car, and you're not doing this without the car. But in regards to checking the vehicle to see if it's good enough, I would first talk to the towing company and tell them, all right, I'm a upstanding person. I'm going to pay a bill. I understand. What are my charges? Is there something I can do? I'm going to be prompt on this. I want to pay you. What's the bill now? Can you give me a couple of days? And then I would look in that town and see if there's a mobile mechanic service. We've got them in our cold weather states, so I know in the warm weather states there's plenty of mobile mechanics. And I would hire a mobile mechanic to go out and do a cursory inspection on that vehicle and just have them check it out and just tell them, hey, I don't need this thing, totally checked out, but I want to make sure, is it roadworthy if I fly down there or drive down there to come take my vehicle back?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to be understanding this is a vehicle that had no insurance on it, probably, or was it insured?
Well, so it was hailed out, totaled. I bought it back, put glass in it. It's a 15 Honda Accord, 100,000 miles on it. I figured I could drive it for 200,000 more, cheap transportation.
Valuable
so
car yet.
Yeah, and I leave the keys. I'm in a rural area, and leave my keys in it, all my vehicles, and some meth head came along and seen the keys in it and took off.
Oh boy! Well, hey, we're up against a break here. We'd like to continue this conversation.
We'll come right back.
Stay right there, Paul. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150.
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
866-594-4150. Let me try that again. 866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Let's give away a hoodie thanks to our partners at UTI.
Yeah, so we're going to change this up a little bit. We've been giving away 2 hoodies that I'm pulling out of the Hoodie fan club, and people who've been either subscribed to us on YouTube and such like that. So we're just going to change it up a little bit now because we can. And for the next month here, we're going to give away a hoodie each hour of the show, but we're just going to pick them from somebody who's called us.
Okay.
And I think we got Paul on the phone right now from Oklahoma, and he's got a stolen car, so he needs a hoodie. So when we're done with this call, we're gonna put you back to producer Doug Mashik from Prairie House Productions there in the booth, and he is going to get your information, and we're gonna get you a hoodie. And next hour we'll pick somebody else.
Yeah, and if you're just picking up after the break here, Paul had a 2015 Accord, and he had told us that it had been hailed out at one time. He bought the salvage back and put windows in it so he could drive it. Nice car, still works good. Going to drive it out a couple hundred thousand miles, but oh boy, keys were in it. Somebody that wasn't as nice saw that and decided they
wanted.
wanted
the helicopter video. Did they just get pulled over and blocked? Or did the
Yeah.
car flip and roll?
They
and
wanted
hit
to
a
buy the
curb?
vehicle, or they wanted this. They wanted that vehicle without buying it, so they took it. And
Car
then-
got stolen.
Car got stolen.
Now it's 800 miles away.
He wants to know if it still runs.
Right,
But I'm
and he-
wondering if I was watching that video of when, because he said his wife saw the car get pulled over. It's if it ran up over a curb, it might not be as good as if they just stopped them.
Yeah, and he was starting to tell us, though, in regards to if he had insurance. I was guessing that you didn't. So we got a couple more things we want to iron out here. This was just an interesting call. So pick up where you left off, Paul.
Okay, yeah, I have liability insurance
Okay.
On it, and the insurance company, I called them and notified them that it was stolen, and they told me at that point, once an unauthorized driver turned the key on, the insurance was suspended.
Yeah,
So
so
they
have no connection to it anymore either then.
No, and they said if I recover the vehicle, call them and they will reinstate my policy.
All right, so I'm going to go back to Russ's question that he threw in there after the break. That chase that you watched, or when they were getting the vehicle, helicopters flying over, cops episode, did they just nicely pull over, or was it a pursuit and they jumped curbs and went through the ditch? Or
Yeah, I talked to the detective, and an officer saw the no tags on the vehicle, so they pulled the plates off of it, and they were driving it around for 3 months. And I wouldn't think that'd be the smartest thing, but whatever.
they stole a car,
so
remember?
Yeah, exactly. So, but so that started the deal, and the news clip showed, they drove through a cul-de-sac and crossed someone's yard to go cut through a ditch to hit a highway, and they buried it in the mud.
Yeah,
And
there's a couple things there to be worried about for sure. If they trauma on that suspension crossing through yard, ravine, curbs, whatever it might happen to be, you're going to want to have somebody inspect that, looking for cracked axle housings, things like that. I wouldn't be quite as worried about if it was stuck in the mud, unless there again, if they sat there for 20 minutes revving it back and forth trying to get unstuck or whatever it might happen to be, or if it was wet enough and deep enough that it got into the intake. But if the engine was still running, you should be okay that way. But, yeah, find a mobile mechanic, have them inspect it, have a conversation with the towing company, tell them what you're trying to do. Hopefully they're cooperative. Most of them, if you are being upfront with them, telling them you're ready to pay, I mean, show good faith, to pay the towing bill or whatever it might happen to be, and you'll probably find yourself to be able to get your car back, and even if it needs a little bit of repair, at least to understand what it needs, and maybe that mechanic, he's going to know somebody in that town, he's going to know the locals, and he could help you figure out where you could bring it and that sort of thing.
You know, a 2015 with hail damage, we just sold, my sister sold our mother's car that my nephew had been driving. It was a 2002 Accord with, I think, 91,000.
That had real low miles when before.
I think it had 91,000 on it after he got done driving it. Hail damage, front to back, and on the quarter panels. I mean, you, within 15 feet, you could see him. Had a bumper cover torn in the back where he had backed into something. I think they got $4,900 on Facebook Marketplace for that car. That's how much they're bringing. You know, a year ago that would have been $2,500, $2,600.
And they probably could have sold it a number of times.
So if this car runs and drives and looks pretty good, but it has hail damage, like the way it was before you lost it in this theft, it could still be over a $10,000 car, even with hail. They're just bringing so much for good.
Make sure you
drivers.
check out autotempest.com/hoodie, and you can see a really good collection of values of vehicles from around whatever region you want to pick.
So if you're looking to replace it, that's a great place to go. Great resource.
Does that help you out there, Paul? Does that point you in a direction?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, stay on
Good
the phone.
luck.
Producer Doug will talk to you, and we're going to get you a free hoodie.
Stay right where you are. I'm going to put you on hold there, Paul. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Steve. Steve, you're on the End of the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Well, I've got a quick question. I've got a car, a four-cylinder. It's got the lambda sensor up front, the oxygen sensor, midstream. Once in a while, it triggers the check engine light. Hook a scan tool onto it, and it's the dreaded, the bogus converter light comes on. So I bought a scan tool, kind of check things out, and I plug it in. And under the live readings, when it's running, it has a lambda, which is around 1 volt, and the lambda 2, or lambda 11, I guess, around 1 volt. And then it has a O2S 11, which I take it is the oxygen sensor midstream. That runs about 2.3 volts. And then it has an O2S 12 sensor that reads around 0.410 volts live reading. And when the light triggers on, which isn't very often, it's never on the highway, it's around town, I hook my scanner onto it and get the freeze frame date on it. And it's always around 1,300 RPMs, give or minus 50. And all the other readings are good, except for that O2S 12 drops down to 0.03 whatever, and that's probably what triggers it. But there's only 2 sensors on it. Is that the oxygen sensor a dual reading type of one, or why does it have 2 different voltage readings?
I think we're going to need more detail.
And for hoodies listening that just wanted to tune out after the stolen vehicle call, then going to that one, this explains completely why diagnosing your car is so easy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a piece of cake. Just listen to that.
It's got it all.
Hey, why fix it?
So you said this is a 4-cylinder car, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, then you just got 2 oxygen sensors. So 1-1 is bank 1 sensor 1. 1-2 is bank 1 sensor 2. 2-1 is bank 2 sensor 2, which this car does not have. And 2.2 is bank 2 sensor 2, which this car does not have. Sometimes they'll have those readings in there that are being filled in by the computer, but they mean nothing. They're just there.
Interesting.
They're not affecting the engine or the
Very
computer, anything. Completely ignore those. You're looking at bank 1 sensor 1, bank 1 sensor 2. That's upstream and downstream. And you should have
Yep.
a fuel air ratio lambda sensor up front, which
Yep.
works completely differently than the downstream O2 sensor,
Yep.
which is sensing oxygen. But if that light is coming on at about 1,300 RPM in your freeze frame data at regular intervals, there's about like a 99.9% chance that the problem you're having is not the oxygen sensor or the lambda sensor, but rather your catalytic converter is failing.
Which is not uncommon on those Altimas with the
you-
4 cylinders.
You're going to need to get that thing tested and diagnosed in a shop where they can test the converter, make sure it has proper flow through it, because if it doesn't, the next step is the converter comes apart and it backs up.
Yeah,
and
what does he win then?
You win an engine because you get all the back pressure. They go, well, how do I get converter material in my engine and ruin it? Well, you push all that back pressure into the exhaust, and you have 4 or 5 psi of pressure in there. And then when the exhaust valve opens on the engine, instead of letting exhaust out, it shoots it back up inside of there like a big dust cloud, and it ruins your engine. So they'll want to check flow of that. They can also check inlet and outlet temperature of the converter and see if the converter's working, because it'll be hotter coming out than going in as it reacts inside. It's like a little blowtorch going on. And then they can look at the sensors too. But from what you're describing there, it sounds like everything's pretty accurate, but you're getting a failure code in the freeze frame due to a converter that's just weak. We've done countless Altima converters, and
We've also done countless Altima engines because of the converters.
that have
Or also,
plugged up.
I've sold countless Altima engines to people that replace them and then call back on a warranty not long later, and I find out that they never inspected the converter, and so they hooked the old converter to a known good engine and killed a second engine too. Typically, Steve, we do talk about a lot on the show that we've had people come to us, or people we've talked to, that have had a request to replace a converter because of a code, and it wasn't the converter. But in this case, don't use that street knowledge to avoid what you're seeing in actual data.
And then, so what's is he up against the same thing everybody's up against with catalytic converters, or is this one?
It's hard to say.
Okay.
I mean, there are some of those Altimas. I don't know what year range it was, but they actually had a campaign, or I don't know if it was a recall, but under the emissions, they extended the emissions warranty because of a catalytic converter problem. So you might check with Nissan just to see with your VIN number.
And then this one, I can recall
So yes, it's going to be a challenge.
almost this exact problem with a coworker's vehicle who called the show from just down the hall, and it's not. This is not This is not a low cost fix either, right? Because there's.
No, your factory price on that converter, if they have it available and you didn't have any sort of program or campaign going on, is probably in the range of $800 to $1,200 for a converter replaced in that vehicle. I'm thinking, because that's an exhaust manifold mounted converter,
It
right?
is, and but they're increasing fast.
Yeah.
Converter prices are really going up quickly.
Just because all of them are.
Yeah,
I mean,
I quoted a guy a pair of converters for a vehicle in February, and the middle of April we did it, and it was $400 more for the pair, and the labor didn't change at all, just the price of the converters.
Steve, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. This is the Under the Hood Show, brought to you by Sturdivants.
To hear the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search, Autotempest.com/hoodie. This is the Under the Hood Show. What's
It
got
is.
your attention in the automotive world?
Hyundai's got another recall.
No,
They
tell me it
recalled-
isn't so.
They recalled some cars not too long ago because the fuel line could crack and leak, and guess what? They're recalling it for the same thing again. Oh, yeah, that repair we did. Kind of it's reminiscent of Takata airbags, huh? Oh, we're going to recall your airbag. I think, Chris, you waited like probably 4 or 5 airbag recalls of the same model on your car because you're like, I'm just going to wait and see. I think when you got the first one, You delayed it a couple months, and by the time you're like, okay, I'm going in to get it done today. Well, what do you mean? The one you were going to put in has been recalled now? Well, let's just wait a little bit. And then they recalled that one, and then the next one, and then you finally had that done, didn't you?
And then it's the most recent recall that was put in has now been recalled.
You got one
So
on Solstice.
it's got one active there's an active recall on it, and it's on its third one. So
They've put. I mean, I knew you had this going on. How many airbags have been put in there?
only one has been put on, but it's been it's the third. It was the third generation of the first one, if that makes
Oh, my
sense.
goodness.
Yeah, so you
Yeah.
should have had 1, 2, 3 put in there
Right.
by now, but you only got the last one done. But there is a recall on your Solstice. I don't think it was airbag. It was something else, and it was something stupid like glove box latch or something. I mean it's pretty. But I'll give it to you when we get done.
Okay.
Was it
Pulling
was
the
it
engine
sun
out of your
visor?
car?
Was it sun visor by chance?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I thought it was glove box latch, but we
Weird.
get. By the way, Chris's car, it's getting a rebuild. It's getting a remodel.
It's getting remodeled. Yeah.
Yeah, we're remodeling.
Solstice 2.0.
That's right.
I thought it was a 2.4. No, it is a 2.0, isn't it?
2.0.
We're gonna we're gonna be doing a little work on it, and we'll give you the update.
And then it should be good to go, right?
I'm curious what the clutch looks like when we get that engine.
Oh yeah. 'Cause
What
it
do you
does-
think the clutch is going to look like, Chris?
I don't know. I wanted one of you to drive it because there's a rough
Can't
gear
drive it.
change. I know now.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I figure you'll take a look and
Yeah. But you've had it for a while now. What, 3 years? This is the third year.
This will just
Third
over a year and a half. This will be the third summer.
Well,
Third.
You know how you've driven it. I mean, whatever that is, and whoever else has driven it. And then what about before you got it? I mean, it was built to do what they do with it. So, I mean, it may have a racing clutch in it or something. You would think so, because I don't even smell burnt clutch when I'm bent over working on that thing, which is surprising. You would think it would have at least a lot of those cars.
somewhere and
Well,
some.
the factory ones come in like the Saturn Skies and the Solstice, and they usually smell of burnt clutch a little bit. if
Yeah,
they're
Chris
manual
was sad
transmissions.
last weekend.
Yeah. Thank you very much. By the way.
Yeah, he was sad. He
You
sent
just
a,
put up a sale to get home?
he set up a text and he said that, and Chris sends us texts and sometimes you read them and there's like, this is a good story. What's the, and I wonder where the hook's coming or Chris tells a good story. That's a compliment.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm reading this thinking it's going to be a story about just the emotional state he was in as he drove past the ice cream shop or
We
something.
should have Jeff Gould tell his story at Christmas, at the Christmas story. about we want to go to a man with a Pontiac Solstice. A man who is having a love affair with his car. We
So
bought this-
he sends this note and he says, yeah, we were out for a drive and it ended poor. It ended sad. It ended with the temperature getting hot and limping at home. And
Yeah.
he reached my heartstrings enough
the
that I took.
coolant had pushed the cap off the reservoir, and it was now dripping down the fender liner.
I carved out a section of my limited time on the weekend to come rescue his car,
Yeah.
to save the hassle of towing it and trying to get reimbursed and just the pain in
Storage.
the butt.
It felt special too when you pulled up in the truck and we put it on the back.
I felt special doing
Yeah,
it.
it was great.
I mean, Chris is he was just kind of moping around his garage,
Yeah, just
wa-
waiting,
walking around the car,
looking
knowing,
at it.
And I didn't dare touch under the hood anything because it was so clean.
Yeah, doesn't it look
I
nice?
There's been some heavy elbow wax put on there, so
Mm-hmm.
I want to do it before I haul the car away. I want to check it. So I'm like, Chris, let's see. I just want to check this a little bit. And so we checked a few things and got it warmed up to temperature. And boy, as soon as it hit thermostat temperature, it instantly started pushing coolant through the reservoir. And so, shut it off. And I felt bad because I leaked some coolant on the inner fender.
Yeah,
Did you notice me wiping that up?
Yeah, I was gonna tell you, don't worry about it.
I wiped it up though.
Thank you.
I think I might have left the rag laying on the street, or did I hand that to you?
You gave it to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But we're gonna get him fixed up, and so we can keep the Solstice dreams alive.
Yeah, I said I said I needed to get it towed to the shop, and Shannon said, "Well, you know what? I might have some time. I'll come get it." And I was kind of like, "Well, maybe. I mean, thanks, but are you sure you can tow it?"
Were you thinking I couldn't do it?
No, he was
Maybe
thinking
it
it's
was
pretty
too
windy
windy.
today.
Well, that's a whole different ballgame. So in consecutive weekends with a break in between, I have pulled out the rollback truck to help,
you,
and
yeah.
I've driven a payloader to rescue myself.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what's next.
You're going to have to get a ditch witch out there and lay some cable or
I
something.
do have some landscaping to do.
866-594-4150. I got a message this week to ask you, Shannon.
Me?
In general.
Nobody ever asked specifically me anything because I'm not the smart one.
Well, this is right up your alley here. They said, in general, ask Shannon, old cop cars that become available, is that something that I should be looking at or staying away from? Ask him about old cop cars.
I have an opinion, and I don't think it's rooted in a ton of fact, but it's rooted in our own experience around the business. The old rear-wheel drive, framed, solid Crown Vics, even the old Mopars, the old Caprices, pretty hard to kill them.
Okay.
They would go and go and
But what
go.
about the Magnums?
So some of them are,
Not so good.
okay, but boy, you got these newer
Explorers,
sport utilities, Durangos, Tauruses. I've got an employee of ours that's bought a couple of them and drove them, and he's had pretty good luck. But I think he's tempting fate
Okay.
because the transmissions and the rack and pinions and a lot of that stuff, in my opinion, even though they build it to a cop spec, and I'm saying that like Blues Brothers.
Right.
I got the right movie there, didn't I?
Yeah,
Checking.
yeah,
Okay,
I think
was
so.
just checking.
Yeah.
But it's still not as heavy as some of the use that it gets.
Right.
It makes me nervous.
So
I see, to my opinion, and I've talked to officers about this, I see an Explorer squad car as more of a disposable vehicle.
okay. So when it's done with its official usage,
It doesn't take much of a pursuit bump to kill it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same car, other than usually the brakes. When we order brakes, it'll say with or without heavy-duty police package brakes on it, and the exhaust is usually a little different. But other than that, there are very few questions for the difference, and really the main difference now is they strip the interior out and they put rubber floor, rubber flooring.
But they've got a similar transmission, similar engine.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same type of stuff.
So it's getting used hard like a police would use it, but it's not built.
Yeah, they've got calibrations in them that make this thing shift different and work different. And I think the transmission does have a different gear ratio in it when it's a heavy-duty
Some of 'em do.
spec on a lot of them, so that they're able to get a little more acceleration out of it if they need to. But then again, that acceleration is going to put more RPMs into the engine.
Mm-hmm.
And so you also got to watch. Now, this is something that if you really want to freak yourself out, you look at the engine run hours versus the miles.
Right.
Because a lot of times they have a low mileage odometer on them because they don't travel as far. But then you got to look at the engine run hours and consider if you're okay with that too.
That'll do it for hour one of the Under the Hood Show. Hour two is coming up. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood show from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood show. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, Hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. We had some calls coming in while the music was playing, so let's get right to those. Let's talk to Todd. You're on the Under the Hood show. Todd, what can we do for you?
Hey, guys. Good morning. How are you?
Wonderful. Thanks for calling.
Thanks. So my son has a 2015 Subaru Crosstrek. And ever since he's gotten it, he's always been told that he can only use basic unleaded gas, no ethanol. Is there any other option that you guys see for him to use? I know last week you were talking about maybe using like a E15 or an E30. Are any of those an option for him on that Subaru, or is he always going to have to use basic unleaded?
Yeah, they're just flat out lying to you if they're telling you that it can't use any form of ethanol. And pretty much for the most part, it's like 98% of all pumps in the United States contain E15, whether they're labeled that way or not. If it says 88 on the pump, it's going to be E15 in it. But, you know, when I say they're just lying to you straight out, I think somebody's misinformed because Subaru...
And they just maybe don't know.
Yeah, Subaru has always... You know, Ben, when it was 10%, they were like, okay, we're okay with 10% in the car. 15, we're okay with 15, depending on the model year. So yours would be a 10% car, right from the factory. You know, but the E15 is certified for all models and makes of cars from 2001 on up. So go ahead and grab the E15 handle and put it in, and there's a pretty large difference in price right now around the country between 15 and 0. You know, in our market, I think we're 35 cents between no ethanol and 15 in the same type of octane rating. And it's becoming, I'm getting ready to put a post on Facebook because I realize that across the country, gas can range from $6.25 to, I think in some parts of Chicago it was getting up there close to $7. They were reporting, you know, at some places, which is insane for gasoline. But then it's as low as like $3.99, and we got a national average. I was just going to say, okay, we're going to give away some hoodies here, and you know, we're going to pick like 4 names from the ones that are closest. I don't need to know what your exact price is, but how much of an increase do you think we're going to get over the next 2 weeks? Because, you know, like some people are for or whatever, but it is going up, so you really need to look at those options. So if you are out there listening to us now and you have a car, 2001 up, put 15 in it, put 10 in it.
And there was just recently a reversal of a ban of a reversal in regards to making the E15 available year-round, and so that is going to be, you know, coming forward again. That had happened before, and it got taken back. There's so many politics at play that come into this, but what we look at is not the politics. We look at the product
And what it does to the car.
Yeah, and the bioethanol, we understand how it affects the car, and the fact is it does not.
That simple. And going back to the supply of fuel that exists in the country, in the United States, the supply of fuel, even if it's marked as no ethanol, generally has up to 10%
They got to put an
ethanol
oxygenator
in it.
in it. They're
Right.
not putting MTB in it because that's against the law. MTBE was poisonous, and they're not using that. They're putting in ethanol. It's just been what they've been doing for a very long time. And there's, you know, if you want to learn about it, I mean, you can go find good or bad on any website, anywhere. You could go to the website and say, why are oranges bad for me? Why is oxygen bad for me? And then you'll find bad stuff. And then say, why is it good for me? You'll find good stuff. But as a mechanic, we can tell you We've been in our shop for over 30 years, and we have never seen one car come in that had damage that we found was caused by ethanol.
Now, what Todd's son does have to do is match the octane rating
Yes.
in the owner's manual.
Yes,
So if it
because-
says you can only use 91 or then you can't use the 88, right? You
Correct.
want to stick with the octane reading.
Correct. Now, over all the
Yeah.
years, we've had people come into our shop and say they had problems, and it's, oh, yeah, my shop says it's ethanol. We've looked, and we haven't found anything. And I have had a couple other people at shops that have told a customer of ours because they were in that shop, oh, it's ethanol. We need to replace all your fuel injectors. I've called the shop and said, you take those injectors off, I want them back because we're going to look at them and see that we're going to take them apart. Well, I want to find the problem. And no one so far has taken us up on that because at that point they're going, oh, I better look and see if it is something else because I don't want to be caught
Right.
because they want me to prove what's wrong. So I think you're just you're perfectly safe.
Is that Crosstech one of the upscale versions with the higher horsepower motor that needs like 91 octane?
No, I asked him. It only needs the basic unleaded. It does not
87.
require or does.
Yeah,
Hello?
you have no problem.
No problem. Is it? I have
Okay.
one question. Is it a cool color? Is it the orange or the baby blue?
No, it's unfortunately it's kind of like the gray metallic,
Okay.
dark grayish black. It's nice looking, but
They got
there's
some fun
there's
colors.
a number
on
of
them.
them.
They got some
I
really
like
fun
I
colors
like
on
the
them.
more. I like the Crosstech when it's Easter egg colored. I wish they would do like a striped version or a squiggly stripe across the middle or something. I think those. And I'm not kidding. Okay, the squiggly line was a joke, but I do like them better when they have the. I think
seen
they
the-
look better when
the
they're.
Batmobile red-orange trim they have on there, haven't you?
Oh no!
So if you look at those Subarus and the like a dark gray one may have like a red trim around the exhaust and the bumper. You've probably seen
Oh yeah,
that.
I've seen that. Yeah.
The red color is identical to the 60s Batmobile, the orangish red.
Okay.
So it looks like, and one of them is called a. Somebody told me what it was the other day. It was on a Jeep. They had it, and it was a Subaru's got it too, but it
Riddler
was
green.
no, it was like the Avenger edition or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
It was like a superhero kind of thing.
Okay.
That's why they did it. And I thought,
That's
well,
cool.
that's kind of
Yeah.
neat, but
I would
stands
never
out.
get that reference right.
Todd, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Idaho and talk to Alan. You're on the Under the Hood show. Alan, what can we do for you?
Yeah, hey, I got a 2017 Dodge Tradesman, and I just bought it, and anyways, it had some issues that I've been working through, but the problem now is, so I can't get any of my headlights to work. When I when I turn my knob, my dash lights dim like it's night, but I can't get any light to my headlights. And I have one night I had it out working on it, and they flickered a few times, like there's a short, but I've never been able to get them to come on. I don't know if there's not a fuse or anything, so I don't know.
Dodge Tradesman.
The
We're
next
talking like
step.
a 1500 Ram pickup.
It's a 2500 diesel.
Okay, same electronics in the system for the most part that run the headlights and things like that.
Yep.
Has the vehicle had trauma in its life ever? Has it ever been flooded, wrecked?
It looks like it got ran through a barbed wire fence. I have a heavy duty grill on the front, so the front's not really scratched up, but it does have scratches on the hood, like it went through a fence.
Well, that shouldn't
So-
have caused any problems if it just was cosmetics. But I do like to ask if it's been a part. I have no problem with repaired vehicles. I've driven repaired vehicles my whole life. But the reason I ask is sometimes when you repair them, you can have things that you take apart that don't get put back together right, and or painting work that gets done and a ground wire doesn't get a clean surface to reattach to, or a harness gets pinched between two things when a bracket gets put on. There's crazy things that can happen, and those are the ones that really drive you crazy because your conventional diagnostics is thrown out the window because you got a bogey in there. And so I want to make sure there wasn't a bogey before Russ starts thinking about that system with that forward control module and the different things that get involved in the headlights on that.
Yeah, it has a front control module, under the hood there on the driver's side by the fuse box. And I got a feeling you're going to find something going on either with that module or with the wiring to or from it. And it can be looked at with a scanner. It'll show you what position the headlight switch is in. The bright lights on that don't operate unless the key's on and the flash to pass. And then the low beams, you can just turn the switch on, but that all is running through the front control module. So it might have a broken wire. We found a few of them with broken wires under the fuse boxes, things like that. But we've also seen a large number of those front control module fail on the Ram trucks, period. All of them, 1/2 tons, 3/4, 1 tons, the Rams, all of them. And our partner over at Dorman Products does sell front control modules for many, many vehicles, and that's what we use because they're going to come pre-programmed, like a plug-and-play on certain models, and that should be one of them.
Is the flickering any sort of a hint?
I would start. So if you've got a little flicker, I'd turn the key to the run position, turn the headlights on, and then go out and give a little, tap on the top of the fuse box thing. My microphone doesn't do that. Oh, these mics in the studio don't tap like our old ones. You can hear it?
Yeah.
Is it doing it to you?
Yeah.
Maybe it's my headphones. Anyways.
He's like, stop.
Yeah.
It's working.
I digress, Chris. Anyways, producers going, really? Are you doing that? Good thing we're not up against a break. Thanks, Russ. But I would tap on it and then see what happens. If you get a flicker, then something's going on in that module area. And then gently wiggle the wires. Don't wiggle them too hard because I've actually wiggled one hard one time and then the lights came on. I'm like, now what's wrong with it? I don't know. I just kind of fixed it because it made it.
Well, and Chris
better.
would say perfect.
Right.
Yeah, until you drive
I
on
would
the
say
road and all the
perfect
lights
for the
go
most
off.
part.
I've lost lights at night a few times, and it is not good. So you want to make sure you get that addressed. But yeah, just gently wiggle the wires coming into and out of that fuse box on the driver's side of the hood, and then give it a little wrap on the top of it, and see if it changes at all. And then at least you can narrow it down in the area.
Does that help you out there, Alan?
Yeah, so is that module inside the fuse box or is it underneath the fuse box?
It's underneath there on the front side.
Does that
of
one
it.
also have a Tipperman and a totally integrated power control module? Or
That's
not?
it.
So that's all kind of integrated in
that's
there?
The
Okay.
thing.
All right.
Hey, Alan, stay on the phone. Producer Doug's going to get your phone number, and we're going to get you a hoodie. You've won a hoodie from the Under the Hood radio show.
866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood show. 866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search, Autotempest.com/hoodie.
You ever make a decision that you regret?
All the time. You should
we
ask
already
me if I
talked
ever make a
about that
decision that
this
I don't
show.
regret.
Oh, the other night, my wife and I were going to go to town. We got invited to a
Was there a trailer involved?
premiere of a movie, and we were going to get down there for it. And I was actually fairly on time, but we had to stop and check a lock on a door for one of the company buildings that my dad wasn't sure if he had locked, and so I had to make an extra stop. And it's not his fault. I'm going to do that anyway. Yeah. But as we pulled out on the road, traffic was moving slower than I wanted to move.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
And one of the people in the line of traffic was a law enforcement officer.
Okay.
So I took an alternative route.
Sure.
Ever done that?
Understand? Yes, indeed.
I think
everybody's done that.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that just now recently.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't that I wanted to go faster. I just knew it was a faster route with traffic. That's what I'm going to say on the air.
All right.
And I could drive by some property that we have and check it out. And so, yeah, we did that. And so then we're coming back and we're going to join the interstate. And, of course, when I crossed the highway to go the other road, I crossed ahead of that line of traffic. Kind of wondered what people were thinking because
Right.
the car stands out.
How did he get here that quickly?
Yeah, and he had to stop and turn. So I think I paid for that decision. Because
Yeah.
on the next road going to the interstate, we're going down and we're cruising along. And wouldn't you know it, a hen pheasant comes out of the ditch, flying low,
Uh-huh.
about grill height on a BMW X6.
Yeah.
And the head of a pheasant will fit between the kidney bar grills on that car. and go right into the power shutters that are behind the grill. And immediately turn on a check engine light. And
Hey, let me out.
And as we're going down the road, they got things flying off. We get downtown Sioux Falls. That's where our home market's at here. We're going to go to the wonderful State Theater, which I had never been in before, which is absolutely beautiful for the people that have remodeled that.
wow.
Have you been in there and sat in the chairs, Chris?
Not yet.
Oh,
It
my
was
gosh.
amazing.
Every seat is a power recline.
I'm
with
afraid I will fall right asleep.
the money that got invested there got invested well for people that are into that sort of thing. It's really nice. So as we're driving downtown to find a parking spot, I noticed that people are looking at me weird. And I'm thinking, yeah, we're dressed up. They're checking us out. Mm-hmm. But as we got into the parking ramp, I noticed that I had a lot of a pheasant still stuck in the car. Well, list price cost of parts from that decision to take that road right now is currently, without taking it apart any further, at about $700.
Okay.
And they say parts are available, but now it's like, I've had a run. And so I should have just got in line and followed, because I think if a pheasant would have got up, it would have been hit by someone else.
Right. You were hidden.
I
in
was the
line.
lone
I didn't
ranger on
know
that
about-
road.
I don't know about you, Chris, but I thought he was going to say that, that line of traffic was going the speed limit, but it was slower than he wanted to go. So he went the other way. And when he got back onto the interstate and met the cars, the officer pulled him over and said,
No.
How'd you get here, so
Mr.
fast?
Nordstrom, how did you get here
I
this
took
fast?
a different route that just had less traffic. Mm-hmm. But I obviously was the first one to startle that bird.
Right.
We've been on our test drives. We've been seeing a lot of pheasants lately. So, hey,
If
great. Our population's coming back.
We have a great hunting area here, and there's a lot of people that come to our state
One
to
of the
hunt
best
pheasants.
destinations in the country.
They don't hunt the hens. Can't do that, but that's what I did. Yeah.
It has been a week, couple
Yeah,
of
so
weeks
I
here
just-
for you.
Yeah, so I'll get to tear that apart a little bit and see how deep I got to go, because what I'm really worried about is that on a lot of these vehicles, you have to take the complete front bumper assembly off because all that stuff bolts on from the back side.
Right.
And so I'm really hopeful that as I take the top protective covers off, I'll be able to sneak my arm in there and somehow get that in and out of there. You know what I'm really hoping for is that I'll get it apart and I'm going to find that the shutter itself got knocked off its axis.
Popped out of the hole
like,
it goes
you know,
into.
So you just
like
pop
if
it-
you got something with
yeah.
pegs on both sides, like a wind chime or something, that I just got to kind of put it back in. And
Well, so if you get ice stuck in those, I do know for a fact, if you get ice jammed in it, it'll turn the check engine light on, and it will not move them again until you clear the obstruction and clear the code, or drive it like.
well, this
20
one here,
cycles.
the third one is pushed in like on top.
Yeah.
It's been either broken or knocked out of its joint. So
Yeah, I just realized yesterday, Monday at our shop, which wasn't yesterday, we had everybody's but your car at our shop,
the shop.
having something done. Your car was there, Vic's car was there, Doug's car was there, my car was there. You needed to bring a car up, and we would
I could have.
Well,
I've got a
yeah.
couple.
Gang would have been all there, all in. And I was just like, this is nuts. I felt bad. Poor Vic. He's one of our affiliate liaisons and also works with our newspaper article. We
Thank
do,
you,
if don't
Vic.
know
He
about
does a
that.
great
Yeah,
job.
thanks, Vic. Hey, he's got a newer Town and Country he just picked up, and it's got that dreaded rear evaporator leak.
Well,
But-
Doug's got the same thing.
Well, Doug's is pouring on the ground, but Vic's is small, so I'm a little bit nervous that it might be both the rear and the front, because those had some frontal issues too. But
Explain what you're talking about. For a lot of people have these minivans.
yes,
And one of the options you want in a minivan
Rear air.
is rear air conditioning for all the
And-
comfort of sweaty bodies throughout
Yep.
the vehicle.
most vehicles are pretty good, but the Caravan, Town and Country, Voyager, the rear air, the way the lines are, they ran up underneath the back, and they're exposed to a lot of salt and road grime, so they get rotted out, and then the salt also gets up into the body and rots out the evaporator, so you have to replace the evaporator and this little line extension set
Yeah,
back
because I got
there.
this little stub and about this much that
Yep.
sticks out unprotected.
And you've got to replace all that, and it's fairly expensive to do.
We're talking thousands, not hundreds.
Yeah,
Typically, right?
Yes, it's over $1,000. Yes, for sure. I want to say the last one, we haven't done one in about a year and a half, but the last one we did was about $1,700. That's the rear. But now a few of these, I would say probably a third of the number of the rear ones that go out, the front ones have gone out. And they leak, but you can't see any leaks physically on them because they leak on the top and the oil settles to the bottom and comes out. With the rear, the lines come in the bottom, so they leak out the bottom. And Doug's, he came in for brakes about a month ago, and it's on the hoist, and he's like, yeah, everything seems to be working good except the brakes. And we're doing the brakes, and we see this growing green puddle on the ground, which is refrigerant oil and dye. And it kept getting larger, and we're like, oh, wow, that thing's really leaking bad. So it's got to be, we looked at it close, and sure enough, it's got to be, his was so bad we could wipe it off and look at it and just see it coming out.
And there are some vehicles that people, when they get older, will make the choice, you know what, we're not hauling a family around anymore. It's a pet in the back that it's cool enough in here. And they'll do a block off on that rear system and just cap it off. And
Save a lot of money.
Save a lot of money. But for most people, they want all that system to work.
Well, and on South Dakota, you think, oh, it's so cold up there because we talk about these sub-zero winter days. But you know, a week ago, I think the high was 52 or something like that. Today, the high is going to be 90.
With a high humidity and a high dew point.
And very, very high. So it's, I mean, we go back and forth. So it's like, you know, us people up here, I don't like the cold because I'm, you know, from Texas. I like it warmer. But when it's this warm and you were that cool a week before and you got a couple kids in the back and the dog's back there and you're up front and, you want air. In the morning, you want a good heater, and in the afternoon, you want a great air conditioner, and then that evening, you want a good heater.
Well, and what will happen, too, is if that rear system isn't working right, it puts a lot of stress on the front system.
Oh, yeah, for sure, and that can cause a problem, too. But I believe, Chris, is it still South Dakota that holds the record for the largest temperature swing from hot to cold and back to cold in one day?
Yeah, it happened in 2 minutes.
And it was like in Spearfish or something.
It's in West River, yeah.
And it wasn't minor. It was like enough that could hurt you to the cold it got. And
I can't remember the specifics, but yeah, it was like 50.
I was going to say 60 degrees?
60 degrees in 2 minutes type of thing. Let's talk to Gary quick. Gary, you had some info on the pheasant strike?
Oh, yeah. Is Killer Shannon still there?
Yes, I am.
Well, Shannon, you'll remember this, Gary Hansen. I was out there and I purchased a grill from you.
Yes, we just talked in the office the other day.
Yep. Well, I enjoy buying a lot of stuff from you guys out there. I enjoy it more than spending the big bucks elsewhere. And so I figured I was going to fix my wife's Chevy. I do a lot of car work, and we were driving around down the interstate late at night, could have been a pheasant, big bird, went through the bottom on her Chevy Suburban on the grill, plastic grill, and so I bought a grill from you to replace it. As I was getting into it, I took the covers off and everything to get to the back of it. I found that the bird had actually pushed the first radiator, I think that's the air conditioning one, back into the second radiator. And when the bird hit, we had electronics went a little nuts on us and still aren't working quite properly. So when I discovered that there was a lot more to do, and yes, you do have to take the bumper off. You have to go through all kinds of work to get to it. Should have YouTubed it first. And so I had it checked out, and it's $2,400 to fix one.
Oh my goodness!
bird.
I tell you what, Gary, that you know what, we could go on a pheasant hunting trip. It would be much similar price maybe in some of these places, but that's a great story. We got a break we're up against here. Thanks a lot for calling in, Gary.
866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show, and we want to thank our partners at Universal Technical Institute.
Universal Technical Institute. Usually we're giving away a hoodie at the bottom of the hour, but in hour one, we gave away a hoodie to a random caller, and we did the same thing in hour two, and we're going to continue to do that here for at least a few weeks and just change it up a little bit. But our friends over at Universal Technical Institute bring you that hoodie giveaway, uti.edu. And that is the place we would recommend here at the End of the Hood Show, if you want to start working on cars, or if you want to be a professional welder or a marine mechanic, a power sports person that's working on power sports equipment, there's just some places like Universal Technical Institute, when you're looking for training, that they stand out, and Universal Technical Institute does that. UTI.edu. They've got all the connections with the manufacturers, the OEMs, to make sure you know exactly how those systems work. If you're not getting trained by people that are getting taught themselves by the people who make the products, well, you're really not getting trained. You're just getting a little hearsay. So visit UTI.edu.
We're going to go to Oklahoma here in just a second, but I did look it up. I have the internet in studio. January 22nd, 1943, Spearfish, South Dakota went from -4 to +45 in 2 minutes, a 49-degree increase. It got up to 54 degrees and then dropped back down to -4. And windows and windshields cracked, and that is still the record for rapid.
So back then, a lot of people didn't even have a radio. There was no internet, nothing. So if you just went, wow, it warmed up, and you walk out imagine if you walked out your front door.
That's crazy to think about even.
30 seconds after this happened, and you said, oh, what a nice day. And then you leave your coat inside, you take a walk to the barn, which is 200 yards away back then, and you're going to go start feeding the horses, and all of a sudden down it comes, and you're like,
I think in 2 minutes you could have a thermometer in your hand and it would still be a shock.
Yeah.
Because you'd see it go that fast. I'm glad it went from cold to warm first.
That's why the speedometers in the vehicles don't react so quick.
Is that it?
They don't want you to know.
866-594-4150. Now we'll go to Oklahoma and talk to Tom. You're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
I've got a 2005 Dodge Ram that's got the 5.9 Cummins, and I had a issue with boost hauling a load the other day, and kind of diagnosed it and changed out the turbo on Monday, and then went and ended up hauling a load again, and it didn't perform as well. And yesterday I ended up changing out the fuel pump, and I don't know for sure if it's fixed or not, but I was kind of wanted to get an idea from you guys what might be the issues.
If you did have a fuel issue, it can back the turbo off if it's not getting enough fuel to run properly. So yeah, that could have fixed it. Could have been the problem.
Yeah, I put a lift pump in it last night just because I had to make a 2.5-hour trip with a skid steer on a gooseneck, and I ended up in limp mode.
After you put the lift pump on, you put like a fast pump on?
That was
after.
No, I put a new lift pump last night. Before I put a turbo on it Monday, because when I pulled off the air horn, the turbo had a little bit of slop in it, and it looked like at some point something had gone through the fins a little bit. They had little nicks in them, and I've only had the truck 7 months.
Okay.
And I figured, hell, I'll put a turbo on it because this one doesn't look that hot.
Yeah, and they do have a failure rate on them. They will fail if you got a couple 100,000 miles on it. Yeah, that turbo and a lift pump both for sure. What do you got on it for miles? 05, it's got to have 200,000, doesn't it?
238.
238. Yeah, so it's about turbo time. I wouldn't be.
That's not the kind of turbo time people want, Russ. They don't sound like, woo, it's turbo time. That's not how that works.
You sounded like Schwarzenegger in that movie. Turbo time. It's turbo time.
Here we go.
Was that Jingle All the Way?
Don't ask me. Don't ask me.
That was it. Doug?
He's not with us.
He doesn't. He's like, that's bad. I'm out here alone. He's trying to answer phones.
He's like, I got a job. I'm doing a job in here. Leave me alone.
At this point now, if you've done the turbo and the lift pump, I'd say drive it and watch it and see. It'll pop back up. If it did it before, it's going to pop back up again. But it very well could be that it was just cutting on fuel, so it caused that.
And in a quick note, Russ, what would the typical diagnosis be if you would have seen this the first time?
The first time,
right away when it wasn't working, what would have been your
boost
diagnosis?
pressure gauge on it? And I would have put a fuel pressure gauge on the inlet side of that pump to see if I had good feed to it and good clear fuel, no bubbles in there, aeration.
Tom, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to DR. You're on the End of the Hood Show. What can we do for you, DR?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, with my 2018 CRV with the 1.5 turbo, I've talked with the dealer that before I bought it new, if I could use more than E10, and they said not to. And I was just wondering if you guys, Russ and Shannon, and you, Chris, could give me an insight on that.
Are you asking for permission from somebody else?
Well, yeah, I don't know.
You want somebody to take responsibility
Right,
if it's a bad decision? That seems like life anymore. What
Real
just
quick though, because we just
remind me again. What's the octane rating requirement on that vehicle that they recommend?
I think what my wife looks at, it says 87 or something, and they said E10 would work in it.
The vehicle's been certified for 2018. Should be certified for E10. There's zero problem at all, and
15.
Yeah, most likely E15. That's where I was going with that. It should be zero problem at all.
Anything 2001 and up is 15.
And so we would tell you that you could use E15, zero problem.
There you go. It's pretty straightforward. Good luck, DR.
866. And his engine will appreciate the extra octane with that little turbo.
Right. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Colorado and talk to Billy. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Billy, what can we do for you?
Hi, I've got a 04 Suburban with a 5.3 Vortex engine, and I think I have a twofold problem possibly with my engine. The thing's got 200,000 plus miles on it and runs great, but I pulled in one day and I couldn't get it to start again, where usually it'll just kick right off. I had my wife come out and listen to the engine while I was cranking it, and she, what happened was it wouldn't start. I opened the air filter and it was packed full of a rat's nest, okay? So I cleaned it out, and I started cranking the engine while she was listening, and the tube that goes to the throttle body, she heard like something let go, like a vacuum cleaner might have a plug, and all of a sudden it lets go. Like maybe there was some nest up in that tube, you know. So I took the throttle body off, cleaned it, looked in there with a flashlight under the intake manifold, but I couldn't see anything. Then at the same week...
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
That was just getting good, too.
Uh-huh.
Just getting good. Darn it. Well, let's imagine what he was going to say. So he looked in there, he didn't see anything, and now it seems to not want to start. And do you think I heard anything if I sucked in, say, a critter or the nest
the
itself?
rat was in there hanging on for dear life.
Yeah.
I could just picture his little claws going, help me.
Oh, it would
gone.
Those little tentacle fingers would be not good.
Like when the bad guy's hanging onto the side of the airplane and he falls off and goes through the jet engine.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I guess I got to ask you your opinion, Russ. If that was what...
Small amounts are just going to get ground up and out. If the engine's still running well, I'd say there was no problem. But if you got a big enough, you know, like if you took a bird's nest and crammed it in a cylinder, the piston's going to come up. It's going to bend something.
He said he had two problems, and I think the first problem is that he had a big nest of mice in his vehicle.
Right.
And they'll eat right through an air filter.
Yep.
You know, and that's one reason a lot of air filters have a metal screen. Have you ever noticed some air filters take them out? They're paper on both sides, but some of the better ones have like a metal screen on the back side of them. That's to keep critters. So they got big holes in them, like 1/4 inch, but they're made to keep critters from eating through them.
I know for a fact that they can eat through a cabin air filter into the vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
I know that for a fact on a vehicle. But in regards to the soft debris that may have came from the nest or something like that, if it got sucked in, I think most of that would disintegrate. Like I said, if you get a high enough volume, you could get stuck behind a valve or something.
Could foul a spark plug.
But a lot of that would just
It
take
just
care of
disappeared.
itself.
As long as it didn't bend a rod where you got the engine going knock, 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 knock.
But you'd have to get it through the valve.
Yeah.
You know, you got to get it.
It's going to chew it up.
Yeah, I think he should be okay. But I think his other problem was it still
Unless
didn't
they
start.
hauled like walnuts in there or something.
We could just say the word fuel pump. Also,
and
It's an 04 Suburban. It may need a fuel pump.
right.
Yeah, that's true.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150.
Prepare to learn something. You're going under the hood.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Let's go to California and talk to Carl. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Carl, what can we do for you?
Hi, guys. Yeah, I'm a caretaker for my son's Q50, the 2014. I got problems with the heater. When it's cold outside, you're sitting in the car's idling, you want to turn the heater on. The fan comes on, but no hot air gets blown through the vent. Although, if you're driving down the road and the heater's on, the heat will come through the vent. So I was wondering, what kind of problem could that be?
When you say no heat comes through the vents, does colder air come through those vents when you're stopped?
Yeah, when you're stopped, there's pushing nothing but cold air.
Okay, good, because I was just curious, because if you had said, well, there's just no airflow at all, that's a whole different thing. All right, so those cars have been known for heater cores to start to get restricted. There's not a lot of core in there. There's a lot of piping, but very small
surface area
for the flow of coolant to touch. So if it gets restricted even 5%, you're going to lose all your cooling at idle. And then when you take it off of idle and there's more flow of coolant through there, it's going to heat up. We would start with a heater core flush. If the heater core flush changes it at all, then you're definitely attacking the right place, and it's in the heater core. Say a prayer that it completely clears it up and you're fine, good to go. But it's more than likely going to need a heater core, an actual core where they got to pull a whole dash part and replace it.
Oh, he doesn't want to hear that, Russ.
But the first place we start is we remove both the heater hoses from that core. We use a power flush tool, and we flush it back and forth both ways for about 5 minutes, try to get it good and flushed. And then we put the hoses back on, and we run it and see if that takes care of it. And there's quite a few times where that does. Other problems we've had on those cars, we've had a little bit of electrolysis problems where we have lost the fins on the water pump, and it cannot flow enough coolant. And without tearing the engine down and taking the water pump off to look at it, you can put a hose. You could take the two hoses off of the heater core and put a clear piece of hose in there with a couple plastic elbows just from your local hardware store, and run it and watch it at idle. And if nothing's moving through there at idle, we got to pull the water pump off. But if there is a good flow, strong flow through there at idle, then it's heater core restriction.
Wow. Not the heater core.
Yeah, so you want to diagnose it by doing some of these things first, because if you don't want to put a heater core on it if it needs a water pump. You don't want to put a water pump on it if it needs a heater core.
Is there anything electronic that could cause it in the dampers or anything like that, Russ? On that?
That Q50, I think, may be new enough. Probably not, but it may be new enough that it has the electronic heater control valve in it that shuts the coolant off, and that may be failing.
So an electronic diagnostics to make sure everything's switching the way it's supposed to would be part of the checking process.
Do all the diagnosis before you make any.
And I got to say, Russ, that if I'm diagnosing and working on somebody's Infiniti, I don't expect to buy a clear plastic tube at the hardware store as part of the repair.
It's just a Nissan.
I know. Don't tell him.
Yeah,
it's not his car. he's babysitting it for somebody else.
No, the Infinitis are very nice vehicles, but they are an elevated platform of a Nissan model. So the repair things that we talk about are very similar.
Carl, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. There is a question on the YouTube chat I want to get to real quick. Derek asks, are the hoodies for sale? Yes.
Thanks for getting to that question.
Underthehoodshow.com.
Yep.
Right there, you can see it.
Go to the hoodie store. There's a lot of cool stuff on that website. If you ever wonder about a sponsor, you go, oh, what was their name again? Where do I find them? Go there. All the links are there. The Autotempest.com/hoodie link is there, so you can just go to our page, click on it. It'll take you to it. hoodies, click, buy, whatever you want. And they're actually affordable. We've always kept them pretty much at cost and got the best ones we could get. A lot of people say how good they are. You know, I found one from our listener that's called several times, Kip Paseo. I found a review that he just posted, like, out of the blue on YouTube, like, many years ago about the hoodie.
Well, there
about
you go.
how cool it was.
I was
Thank you.
I was buying one the other day for somebody. Didn't get it successful. Got an address problem. But I like that it suggests that you should also buy a hat and a T-shirt while
Right.
you're in there.
You're right
Suggested things to purchase. Others have bought.
You might as well.
You might as well, too.
Let's go to Iowa and talk to Bob. You're on the Under the Hood show. Bob, what can we do for you?
Hey guys, love the show. Thanks for all that you do.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, so I've got. It's funny because you just had a Nissan question. I've got a 2007 Nissan Murano, rather a friend does, and this car is the bane of all cars. Well, it's been awful. Thousands of dollars have been poured into this thing. I've got a headlamp assembly. She hit a deer a little over a year ago. I finally figured out that to replace the forget what the part is now. The bulb was fine.
HID ballast?
Yes, yep, that's it. Because they're xenon bulbs, and so I replaced that ballast, and it worked for a while, and now it's out again. I'm getting power to the assembly. Is there something on that assembly, or should I just yank it out and buy a whole new assembly, or what do you think is a good? Oh, and that's another thing. So I replaced the ballast, and then I found, which I've never seen before, that the left side and the right side have separate fuses for those. And so I pulled the fuses and found that I think it was that one was bad, and then it gone and everything was fine for a couple months. And so I've checked the fuses since, now that it's gone out again, and that doesn't take care of the problem.
The ballasts and bulbs.
It has not been a good show for animals.
No.
This show has been very rough on animals.
Animals were hurt during this show. Storytelling
Not by us.
time.
Yeah.
I apologize.
The
No,
ballast
the deer
and
was fine. The deer was fine.
Oh,
are you?
There's a happy ending.
It like ran away?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you for probably lying.
Probably got a bruise.
the pheasants were not. They were tasty. The left and right headlight bulb and ballast should be interchangeable, so you should be able to use the other side for testing parts. Should be able to move them over. Actually, I think you could take both headlight assemblies out and then just take the right one to the left and the left one to the right and plug them in. They won't fit in the car, but you should be able to plug them in and see if they work. And if the other side works, then swap the ballast and then swap the bulb. See if it's your ballast or bulb that's out, one of the two. Could be a bulb, could be a ballast. You know,
and you could blow that fuse when the other ballast or bulb was getting bad because they've got pretty high resistance to those circuits with the HIDs. It's kind of like running an old fluorescent light. Is how those HID lights work. Now, when everything transitioned to LEDs finally, much less resistance, much, I think, better, more expensive assemblies, but much better light and a better system. But they use that HID and ballast and bulb situation for a lot of years. I mean, BMW, Mercedes started using it early on, and then the domestics jumped on board with that to get better lighting. But now that you've got, you could just have, did you buy an OEM ballast, or did you buy one of the ones from the internet that are very affordable?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've been down this road. I've restored and worked on an older Range Rover, and I bought the replacements, and they were much more affordable. To go to Range Rover was ridiculous.
Well, and you can get the whole assembly at the much more affordable one, but buy the ballast and the bulb, buy good ones.
Buy it by
name
like
brands.
a part number, and you can buy usually that by brand, by like Phillips or whoever might make it, directly without having to go through Range Rover or BMW or Nissan or whoever it might happen to be. That's the options I look for sometimes on that type of part. But otherwise, yeah, they can get very expensive. And we just had a situation recently, Russ, and I don't know if you've heard about this at the end of the story, but one of our employees has been fighting a wiring issue on a late model Honda that has been just given check engine lights and given problems. And a lot of people have looked at this vehicle, finally found out that in the collision repair, the aftermarket headlight that had been used was causing a a code on the circuit that was connected to all this stuff. They took the aftermarket headlight out, had a problem with it. They put in an OEM headlight, and all the problems went away in the vehicle.
Oh, really?
And they've paid a lot of hours and time trying to diagnose this
Must have been a
vehicle.
headlight that had, auto leveling or something in it, or HID.
It was a HID type.
They had a
and so-
monitor in it then too.
Yep, and so that has to work on the CAN bus network, and it wasn't working right, causing problems.
That'll do it for hour 2 of the Under the Hood Show. Until next time, you can find us at underthehoodshow.com. Thanks for listening to the Under the Hood Show. Let's go to Nebraska and talk to Deb. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Deb, what can we do for you?
Well, it's nothing under the hood. It's a 2005 Town & Country van, and the door, I went to shut it in the back on the driver's side. I shut it. Then I couldn't get it open anymore. It hasn't been open for a month. And I've taken it to some guy, and he said he's crawled in the back, and he's tore it apart, but he's got to figure, he doesn't want to break anything. He can't figure out how to get it open. And then I've talked to another body shop who says the door has to be taken off.
And this is the sliding door?
And that the sliding door, yes.
Is this
and
equipped with
actually,
the power sliding option?
yes.
Back in my day, the vans didn't have the driver's side sliding door.
It was a big deal when they added that extra door.
It was huge.
Game changer.
Yes,
in the van
absolutely.
world.
Did so?
What
Was
you
this?
mean? What do you mean? Is it a power sliding door? I mean, there's a something on your key to open it. Is that what you mean?
That's power.
Yeah, because
Okay.
the earlier ones, they didn't have that power mechanism. You just pulled the handle, it popped out, and you manually slid it back and forth. It didn't have the
I feel like we're talking about the pioneer days.
Yeah.
We used to hook up the horse to the Town & Country, and
Were they able to remove the door panel from the inside while
No,
the door was closed?
That's another shop that said they'd have to take the door off. I live in a small town USA farming community, and this guy said he was afraid he was going to break it. He'll have to check into it more.
And so if your latch
Technician A says,
if
sounds
your
like an ASC
latch
test.
broke or your handle inside broke, you will not be able to get it open unless you remove the door panel. And almost every time, the only way to get that panel off of most all vehicles is to grab a hold of it and break it off the door, which means you will have to get a used door panel, which should be pretty easy to find. There's quite a few of them out there, and you pull at yards and salvage yards across the country, even in the smaller towns. It's a very popular vehicle to have that kind of part on because not that many need to be replaced. But you get a door panel for it, and then they can get in and they can manually open it. And it's probably, a lot of them, the handle would break on them and off the latch, and then you'd have to go in there and manually trigger that latch with a screwdriver or some pliers or something. Then you can get it open and make repairs. But
Without removing the door, but breaking that door panel.
You have to remove the panel off the door, and the only way to get to it is, so what we do is we fold down or remove the very back seat, and then we take the center seat out so we can get to the panel. We take the screws out of it, and then we try to pull it off. And there's some times where we can get it popped loose and remove it from the door.
There's enough flex that you can pull the center of the panel and get it out from behind the ridge on the bottom or the top is usually your challenge.
Yep, or we can get it up enough that we can pop it loose inside and unlock it. What may have happened is that the lock rod on there may have jammed in the shut position so that no matter where you move it, you can't open it electrically or manually. And sometimes what we do is we'll push it down and then hit the lock button on the door, and then we'll pull it up and hit the unlock button on the door and keep going back and forth with it like that and kind of help it both directions. And sometimes all of a sudden it just kind of magically fixes itself and starts to open. Then we open the door, we take it apart a lot easier then, and we lubricate everything and make sure it's working. But if someone ever is pulling on the handle when you try to unlock or lock the door, it will do all sorts of damage. It'll get them out of sync on the older vehicles especially, and cause all sorts of issues. That's why General Motors and Ford now, and a lot of them have gone to this thing where to open a door from the inside, you have to pull the handle twice in order to open it. That keeps people from holding the handle while they're trying to unlock it, which jams these things.
I see.
Should be very, very doable. It just might take a little bit more of medieval procedure
Right.
to get in there. 'Cause-
But so far, the info she's getting is right on.
well, not completely. The person said they might have to remove the door. The problem is you can't remove the
think
door
they mean
unless
the
you can get the
panel.
door
Yeah.
open.
That's
Must
what
be
I.
the panel
That's what
they're
I
talking
took.
about,
too.
too.
Yeah, because you have to get the door open
To get that.
to get to it.
Gotta
Deb-
grab that lock handle and just shake it back and forth.
Yeah, I've gotten lucky that way. We get this problem in our salvage yard all the time. And
like a Polaroid picture.
yeah, you sit there, you run the lock mechanism back and forth, you shake the handle back and forth. You get
pull
somebody
the
else.
handle and let go of
Yeah,
the
we have
handle at
people
the
on the
same
outside
time.
pulling from the inside, tapping on it.
And then it just goes click.
All of a
you're
sudden, you're
"Huh?"
like, yes, I'm a genius.
We did it.
Yeah, and then you fix it or take it off.
Deb, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Let's go back to Colorado and see if Billy is still there. Billy, are you there? We answered your question, but you had your phone had decided to give up. So
Well,
let's go
we
back.
wanted to hear
We
more
answered
about
what we
when the
thought
rat
his
let
question
go
was.
and foomp.
Right. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
You bet.
Okay, I'm way up in the mountains, and I just listening out, so I'm sorry. So I put my ear down. I don't hear any screaming or anything in the throttle body.
Help
Took it off. Tried to look in there. I couldn't see any trash or anything, but my wife swears she heard a big suction let go, like a nest was possibly in there. So this is kind of a convoluted problem. Okay, so that's the first problem question is if that trash got stuck in there, would it keep the car from starting?
I don't think
Turning
so.
on?
I do not. You'd have to have a lot of volume of trash get through that throttle valve and jam valves or something to have it not start.
Now, if there was a noise like a foomp and then the engine died immediately
Yes.
after and would not start, yes, there's a problem.
Yeah.
But if it's run since then,
Well, that is the question. Has it run since then?
has it ever run since it made the noise?
Only on starting fluid.
Oh, so it's not
That's
getting
the
any
only
fuel.
way I can get it to run. Yeah.
So we had guessed.
Unplug the mass airflow sensor on that car right by the air cleaner. Unplug that and see if the car will start. If it had trash in the air filter, there may be a piece of trash on the mass airflow sensor and it cannot sense the flow of air and it won't run.
Would that cause it not to start?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So just unplug it. And if it starts with it unplugged, then get another sensor. Or just clean it off if you can see a piece of trash.
If it
just
hasn't
blow
gotten
on it.
broken
Just
by looking at
do
it.
the Chris just blow on it. But then if that doesn't fix it and it's not starting unless you put ether in it, Shannon may be right on with the fuel pump.
We
thing.
guessed
It
that
is
you
an
needed a
04.
fuel pump because they seem like they all do.
While you're cranking it, bang on the bottom of the fuel tank right in the center, pretty hard. You're not going to break anything, so you can slap it pretty hard. Just boom, boom,
Sometimes
boom.
they got a tank guard on them. You can't get at it.
Yep. And if it starts up when you bang on the tank, definitely a fuel pump.
There you go, Billy.
And Billy, check that. If you know you had a critter nest in that air intake tube and an air cleaner, yes, inspect that mass airflow sensor first because it could be full of material and just not doing a thing or even broken from the stuff flying through there.
There you go, Billy. Thanks very much for the call. Good luck. All right, that will do it for the after show as well.
Nothing else fun to talk
we
about?
got all the way through there, I think.
Nothing else fun to talk
I
about?
don't think so. Did you kill anything else this week?
Let me think.
Pheasants you got? Trailers you got?
Pheasant I've killed a trailer.
Uh-huh.
I killed a wasp.
Yeah, they're out.
Yeah, they
I
are.
saw one, but I didn't kill one.
I usually leave them alone, but I mean, this one
Yeah,
was
sure.
like, being
Yeah,
pretty
I've-
aggressive. I was where, it wanted to be and I needed to be.
I
And
killed a head gasket
in the
since we
yard.
last
Yeah,
met.
you
At
killed a head
least.
gasket.
At least.
Have you guys
You know-
opened that up yet or just got the motor out?
No, we haven't done either one.
Oh, I just
we're,
curious if you
we're,
found it.
we're working. I mean, I got close. and then
Curious
something
about
else
what you
came
find
up,
on
but-
that.
Yeah. Since I learned that, I was like, I actually Googled a couple years ago. I said, what is a wasp good for except for stinging people? And when I realized that they are big pollinators, like honeybees and stuff, I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to, even though I'm allergic to them, I'm going to do my best to see if I can just avoid them. Move to a different area. If I'm on the front patio and they're bugging me out, I'll go to the back patio. Because there's just not enough of those things around anymore.
Are you trying to make up for all the dead animals in this show? Are you trying
No,
to swing your
just
karma back
just
the
all
other way?
All
I
the
think he might
wasps
be.
I've killed over
yeah.
the years.
I've I've never been ashamed of killing a wasp that's near me, that's affecting my
Peace and
comfort.
tranquility. Your comfort.
I understand.
I have
what
no
you're
regrets.
saying. Okay.
Even though they pollinate.
Yeah.
Another one's gonna have to pollinate. That one's not pollinating.
That one's not
Once
gonna
it
do
moves
it
into my
anymore.
space. It's just not gonna be good. You ever try to spray them out of the air with the wasp spray?
I don't even want to.
I want to. You got something here, don't you?
No, I don't want to jinx anything by saying.
You got something here, don't you?
No. I've had remarkably little problem with them, so I don't want because even though we're not
They're
on
listening.
the yeah, they
They're
have
tuning
internet.
in to the
They have-
waves.
they
Their
have-
antennas are.
They've got antennas. They're
Yeah.
built in.
So I don't want them to hear me say anything either way. I don't want to tempt any fate or
We had a
wasps.
little playhouse in our backyard, and it was tendency to get wasps in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember if it was my daughter or it was my son, but they were in there. Then they realized that there was wasps in there with them.
Mm-hmm.
Door's not very big. Playhouse isn't very big.
Right.
Kids were pretty excitable.
Yeah.
But
for
they
sure.
but they still wanted to be in there, so they went at it with they found the wasp spray, and
Mm-hmm.
I had to educate them that it probably isn't going to do any good to try to shoot them out of the air with the wasp spray.
Do you remember when I got
I would
stung out
try.
here? When I had my daughter out here in 1993?
No, I don't, Russ. I don't.
Because that was kind of an event.
I don't remember, but I think there's like little pieces that are saying.
Bet your mom might remember that because I came out here. I needed a horn for a Monte Carlo under the front.
Do tell, because I don't remember it
So
all.
back when you used to let people in the yard and before I worked here,
Before we had a you pull it.
I go out to the yard carrying my, 2.5-year-old daughter on my shoulder. And I'm walking out and I find a Monte Carlo and I open the hood and I reach behind the grill underneath, because you got to reach under there and get the screw out. And I'm like, oh, leaves, crunch, crunch, crunch. And I went, oh, that's kind of painful. Would I, poke my finger on a sharp bolt or something? I pull my hand out and there's 3 or 4 of those red wasps on my arm. And I'm like, whoo.
Are you allergic to them?
Yeah. And my daughter's over here and she's like,
We always joke about Gerald. We never joke about you.
well, I'm not that bad, but I took off. I'm going, and all I can think about it is I've got my daughter here.
Left her
I'm
there
like,
to distract
I was
the
like,
wasps.
I don't know how far. Oh, she's got exotic pets now. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what they
maybe
do.
that's why.
They got a pet store.
Maybe
she loves
that's
that
why.
stuff, but they're not big into bees. Spiders, yes, not bees or wasps. But I took off for up here, and I didn't know if I was going to make it. I didn't want to be out there with a little
Yeah.
kid laying face down in the dirt. But I got up here, and I know your mom was like, "You okay?" And I'm like, I think so.
Like a Jim Carrey moment. When
Oh,
he's got
I was
shot by a
I
dart.
was awful dizzy.
Like
but
every show.
I sat up here for probably an hour more, and it was hot out that day. It was like this time of year.
Yep.
Where it was a Saturday when we used to be open Saturday, and we're no longer open Saturdays. And it had heated up pretty quick, so they were out
U-Pull it
doing
is.
their thing. And yeah, U-Pull it's open Saturday
Yeah.
from 8 to whatever. Anyways, but yeah, I was like, wowzers,
My mom has a story to tell that this is good for the after show, but one of her friends and my dad's friends growing up was allergic to bees and that type of thing. Had shorts on, got stung in the end of the wiener. It's a great story when they tell it. Richard survived.
Yikes.
But boy, things got deformed and out of shape. And the story, when they tell it, I laugh to this day when I hear the story. So whenever I think of somebody getting stung by anything,
you think of that.
That's the story that comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
You got
all right. I'm not weighing in on this one at all.
We should probably
And
we
cut.
should probably stop.
And
We